everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Emily, and I've been doing weekly vlogs, or like kind of weekly vlogs, for the past month, trying to finish this like overly optimistic end of year TBR that I gave myself. And I have to essentially read 18 books off of this TBR October, November, and December to be able to finish it. And I am in a like huge reading mood after having like a very slumpy September. October, I was definitely back into the reading and just really trying to like motivate myself to get through these books because I am excited for all of them, so that also helps. I think I'm gonna break this month down into like maybe 5 books of vlog because the last vlog I did in November was like 7 books and I just think that's too many for one video, so I'm gonna break it down into like 5 at a time, and then the last 3 books, maybe I'll read a few bonus books in that one if I have time in November. If not, they'll just be 3. But anyway, the first 5 books I plan on reading this month are Bride by Ali Hazelwood, and I have started this. I will say I started this morning and I'm about 150 pages in and I'm so far really enjoying it. It is a different type of a story for Ali Hazelwood. It is a fantasy story when she usually just writes like regular romance feminist novels. And this follows Misery and Lo. Misery is a vampire and Lo is an alpha werewolf. And they have like this arranged marriage to help bring peace between the 2 groups of beings. And they're living in like the human world. So this is like an urban fantasy because the world is like current and like we are now. But it's basically Misery has her own reason for wanting this arranged marriage. And I feel like Lo may as well, but we're not really there yet. We know what Misery, why she agreed to the marriage because we're following basically her point of view the entire time. But now it's just kind of like, can they work together to get what they both want? And is there that attraction there that like shouldn't be because their species should not be intertwined? And this has tried to happen in the past before and it's never been successful. So I'm liking it so far. It's like a super fast read. I don't want to put it down. I actually had to stop myself from reading this to film this so that I didn't read the whole book before I filmed the intro. But I will update more on this later in the vlog. But I'm going to go through the next 4 really quick. I'm not going to give too much detail on them at this point in time, but I'm also going to read The Ghost of the Shadow Market, which is a Shadowhunters series, I think of like novellas, that is the next book I'm supposed to read in the Shadowhunters universe. So I'll probably read like 1 or 2 of these stories a day, just like over the course of this vlog, and focus on like another book to read. It's in its entirety throughout that. It seems like this is going to follow... Actually, it's a bunch of different people, so it's not going to just follow like one group of Shadowhunters. Then I'm going to pick up Magnolia Park's Into the Dark, which is the final book that is currently out in this universe, and it is the final book in Magnolia and BJ's point of view. And I've heard it's very emotional, like from the start very emotional, so it's going to be a sad girl weekend for me. It is Friday. I hope to get to this weekend. I am looking forward to the conclusion of their story, but I definitely do enjoy the Daisy Hates books more, so I'm more looking forward to the final 2 books we're supposed to get. I think 2 books from Daisy and Christian and Julian. In Julian's point of view, completely blanked on his name. So this is just following the storyline that dropped off after Long Way Home, which was, there was a very tragic ending, and this is just, I'm assuming, going to continue that storyline. Then I'm going to read the last Leigh Bardugo book that I have off her backlist, and that is Rule of Wolves, which is the second in a duology and the last book I need to read in the Grishaverse. I really enjoyed King of Scars. It took a while to get into, but the second half of the book I just like flew through. So I'm hoping that this just picks up at that pace. And the ending of that book left off on quite a cliffhanger, so very excited for this book. And then the final book I'm going to read in this vlog is a quick little romance, The Do-Over by Lynn Painter, and this is kind of a Groundhog Day situation where this girl's boyfriend breaks up with her and she just keeps waking up to do that day over and over again, and he keeps breaking up with her, but she's also getting a battery. Couldn't wait 2 more seconds to die. Anyway, she's also growing closer to another guy, so she kind of has to make the decision on what way she wants to go. I believe. I don't know. That's kind of what I got off the back, but that should be a nice quick palate cleanser read at the end of some of these heavier, thicker books. So I will update you all on Bride a little bit later, and that's all I have for now. Update, I finished Bride this morning, and this book has been like, I've seen it either loved or hated, and I fell firmly on one side of that argument, and you'll find out at the end which side of that I fell on. But it was a very quick read, definitely interesting, different for Ali Hazelwood, but still like definitely her writing style. So like I said, you'll find out my rating towards the end because I do want to sit on it a little too. And I did read the first story in the Ghosts of the Shadow Market. So that first story followed our characters, the children of the characters from Infernal Devices, and a little bit of the characters from the Infernal Devices. They were just older. And I believe those are the kids that the Last Hours trilogy is about, which I still have to read. That's the next thing I'm going to read for this universe. So read that one. Maybe I'll read the second one at some point today too, because I think it's only like 60 pages or something. So that's not too bad. We'll see. Because now I'm going to move on to this heartbreaker of a book. So Magnolia Park's Into the Dark, final book in Magnolia and BJ's story. Fifth book in the Magnolia Park's universe. So gonna dive into this one and hope that it doesn't rip me apart too much. And I will update you all when I've made some progress here. Hi, it is now Sunday evening. I didn't update at all today until now, and I actually almost forgot to update before I went to bed. But I'm still gonna read a little bit more tonight. It's still kind of early, but I didn't want to take my camera into the other room. I am reading 3 books right now. 2 of them off the actual TBR, and one that I just wanted to read. It's a nonfiction I wanted to read, and I'm about 100 pages into that. It's not a very long one. I've read 3 of the stories in the Ghosts of the Shadow Market, and I'm hoping to read the 4th one now, and then once I finish that 4th one, I'm going to move on to reading Magnolia Parks again. This book is an emotional roller coaster. Like, I didn't cry at the beginning because I didn't. I don't know, my body just didn't want to cry at the beginning, and I thought something was wrong with me, and then I got to like page 170 and I was just bawling during that chapter. So I don't remember what chapter it was, but I remember looking at the page and it was like 170 something. And now I'm around page 250, and I'd like to get another 100 pages of this read tonight if I can. It is like a 700 page book, and my mental state right now, I'm reading 3 books. That should tell you everything you need to know about that, because I honestly can't focus. I'm all over the place, and it is kind of helping having 3 books to read, but at the same time, like, I'm not in a slump. I'm having trouble focusing because my brain isn't, my mind's not where it should be. It is where it should be. It's just, it's very troubling where it is. So I'm hoping by the end of this week, things get better and not worse, but we shall see. So I did read a decent amount today so far. Not as much as I would have liked to, but I was also like editing videos and doing some other stuff to catch up, so I don't have to do it this week. But now I'm gonna go lay down in bed, try to get through, I guess, again, the next story in The Ghost of the Shadow Market, and then hopefully another 100 pages or so of Into the Dark. And that's the book I'm gonna take to work with me tomorrow to read before and at my lunch. So I'll update tomorrow with where I've gotten. Didn't finish any other books this weekend just because I am trying to read 3, and these 2 are massive books, so it's gonna take me a few days to get through all of these before I get to move on to the last 2 that I'm gonna put in this vlog. So I'll update tomorrow. It is Monday. I'm already having a rough week. I don't think it's gonna be a good one, to be completely honest, but all I've read today so far is Magnolia Parks. I'm around page 500, so that means I have like 200 pages left. I really want to just finish this tonight because I want to know how it ends. I have some thoughts about the overall character development. I think that there was some significant character development between Longway Helm and this, and it's just almost unbelievable character development, I would say, because they're just so different. But I'm really enjoying this book. I think the suffering that I went through for the first 2 Magnolia books is worth this one, I would say, because I do like the Daisy Hates books better, and I still stand by that, but I really like this one. Like, this one has 5-star potential, or very close to 5-star potential, and the biggest reason is this book deals heavily with Magnolia coping with death in general, and like her thoughts on it, and she's dwelling on things, and the way that Jessa Hastings is writing Magnolia's thoughts and feelings and questions that she's asking and like how she's coping are exactly how my brain thinks about death and how I worry about it, and the things that I think about that I think I'm crazy, because in my mind I tell myself there's no way that other people think about this. But the fact that like it's being written in the exact same way that I think about it makes me feel so seen. But it is also, it's like semi-therapeutic, but also still like hard to get through. So I think that I'm just connecting with that so much that this is why the book has like such high potential for me. But gonna try to finish this out. I did read the other story in this last night. I did get through what I wanted to last night for that. I don't know that I'll read any more of it tonight because the next story I think is pretty long. Maybe not. Maybe I lied. It's like 60 pages long. So will I get to that tonight? I don't know. I don't know how much I'm going to sleep this week because it's not seeming likely. And I did read the nonfiction book as well last night that I am reading. And I got to where I wanted to in that. So I think I'm going to just try to get this done so that that's one less book that I'm flipping between. And I just want to get, I've only finished one book yet this month and it's the fourth, and that's not normal for me. But I do understand that I'm reading two very incredibly chunky books and then a third one as well right now. So it's not unrealistic that I haven't finished one yet. So I've only finished one rather. So I'm going to try to bang out the rest of this book, and we'll see if I can tire myself out enough to actually fall asleep tonight because it's not looking great. But I'll talk to you all either later tonight if I can't sleep and I get far in these books, or tomorrow. It's Tuesday. I did finish Magnolia Park's Into the Dark last night. I did not update last night because I didn't finish it until late, and then I wanted to read a little bit more of my other book before I fell asleep. So this book was worth the 4-book journey that it took to get here. And I think that there was some, like I think I said in the last update, unrealistic character growth, but at the same time, like I really connected with this book and how Magnolia was dealing with some situations and how her and BJ were interacting was like a lot better in this one than it has been. So it wasn't like as toxic. I'm not saying that there wasn't problems, but that's where like the unrealistic character growth I think comes from. But I definitely enjoyed this book more. Not just their story, but the inklings of like the other stories that you're getting in the back that I know are going to come in the next Daisy Hates book, which I cannot wait, and I do not know when it's coming out. But I think this was a perfect conclusion to BJ and Magnolia's story. It was very beautifully written. It was very, like I said, relatable to me, and I love that Jessa wrote Magnolia's thoughts the way she did in this book, because it was like therapeutic but still difficult for me to get through. But I did really much enjoy this a lot more than the first two. It was worth reading the other two and being frustrated with the other two to get to this one. So I'm also about just over halfway through Ghost at the Shadow Market. I have like 10 pages. Almost dropped the book. This is like not a floppy book at all. This has been very difficult to read without breaking the spine. So I'm literally like having to read it like this, which is really frustrating because I don't want to break the spine. So I want to be done with it just so that I can read a book that has flop. But I'm going to finish the story that I'm in on this one because I have about 10 pages left of it. And then I'm going to go to the nonfiction book that I'm reading because I would like to finish this tonight if I could. And I'd only have like 100 and some pages left of it. It's not, I don't have too much left. So I'll probably go back and forth a little bit, but my priority is going to be finishing the nonfiction. So I do not think I will finish this tonight unless I don't sleep, which is a possibility. But I gotta go to sleep at some point because I gotta get up and go to work. But I just feel like I'm not gonna get much sleep tonight. So I will touch base with you guys when something's finished or I'm moving on to another book. Happy Wednesday. So I went a little rogue. I finished the nonfiction book that I was reading last night pretty late, but I just couldn't fall asleep. But I also didn't want to get into fantasy, so because my mind was just not there. So I picked up The Do-Over, which I was supposed to read in this vlog. Granted, not yet. And I started it, like I read maybe 20-25 pages last night. Finally got to sleep. And now I'm up to page 175 because I've just been eating through this. It's a Lynn Painter book. You're going to go through it fast. And this is, Emily is stuck in a time loop where she just keeps living Valentine's Day over and over, trying to figure out what she needs to change or what needs to stick for it to, like, the time loop to stop. And basically, like, she finds her boyfriend cheating on her, I think. Yeah, it says it on the back. So she finds her boyfriend, like, cheating on her on Valentine's Day, and her life just descends into chaos other than that as well. So she keeps living the day over and over, and she keeps running into this other guy every day as well, and now she's starting to develop feelings for him. So now I think we're gonna figure out, like, what she needed to do. I think obviously it's a romance. She needed to make something work with him in order to move on, obviously, but it's cute. It's definitely like a YA book, but her kind of just completely not understanding what's going on and trying to change all of these different aspects of it has just been like, it's just been a fun, good time and a really quick read. So I have about 100 pages left, and I'm just gonna like blow through this now. And then I have like 200 some pages left. How long is this book? Yeah, I have 200 and some pages left, but like pretty close to 300 pages left in this book. So I'm gonna try to read some of this tonight. I would love to finish it, but I don't know that that's gonna happen. I'm definitely going to try to get through the next story, which is the longest one, and then there's like 3 more, I think, and they're all relatively short. So I'm definitely going to get through this big chunk story, which is like almost 100 pages long, or it is just over 100 pages long, and I'm going to finish I'm looking at the back, so it's betting on you, and I'm going to finish the do-over first, and we'll go from there. I don't know if I'll start Rule of Wolves before I finish this, or if I'll try to finish this and then go into Rule of Wolves, but that will be the final book in this vlog. I'm not really getting through these as fast as I would have wanted to, but it's been a week, and I am reading. I'm not reading. I'm reading like 300 pages a day, but I think these are just, I took on some of the larger books in my TBR for the month, at the beginning of the month, so like this one's up there. Magnolia Parks was up there. I think Magnolia Parks was the second longest book. And then it's the Boys of Tommen book that I'm supposed to read, Redeeming Six. And then this one, I think. I don't know. I picked like 2 of the longest books out of the top like 4 biggest books I have to read this month. And I've got some pretty big chonkers on this DVR. So that's probably why I'm not getting through them as fast, but that's fine. It doesn't matter. I'm just frustrated with a lot of things right now. And I'm just frustrated with my reading pace as well, because I have a lot of other books that I'm excited to get to, and I can't get to them until I finish these. So that's where I am. And hopefully rest of this week goes a little bit better, and that this weekend's relaxing, but we'll see. I will touch base with y'all probably tomorrow. We'll talk tomorrow. It's Thursday, and I still have like 50 pages left of this to read. I am going to finish this tonight. I know I keep saying I'm going to finish this, and I haven't yet, but I'm not going to bed until these 57 pages are done. So I am enjoying it. It is like small short stories, so I have been able to read them over the course of almost a week now, but they're not really about, some of them do have like my favorite characters in them from the Dark Artifices, but I do love the Mortal Instruments characters too, and they have only really been in like one of these stories. It is more focused on the Infernal Devices and the Lost Hours people, so like Tessa and Jem and Will, and then I assume the next generation from that story, which is going to be the Lost Hours trilogy. So that's who most of these have centered around. Like Jem has really been the big part of these. I think he's been in every single one of them, so I'm not sure. I have a feeling that's supposed to be Jem on the front, so that makes sense that these are all like mainly based around him. Kind of does see, yep. Should have read the back. They're all about him. So he's not my favorite character. As I said when I read the Infernal Devices, I'm not a huge fan of him, but these have been okay. I haven't minded them because other characters have been involved too. So when I finish that tonight, I'm not going to update when I start the next book because it'll probably be late. I'm not even sure how much I'll read of it, but I am going to go into Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo. This is the final book in the Grishaverse that I have to read, and the final Leigh Bardugo book I have to read before I'm caught up on her backlist. So that's kind of sad, but I am excited for this. It's going to continue the story from King of Scars. We're following Nikolai, Zoya, and Nina, and the events after the Six of Crows duology and the events of the Shadow and Bone trilogy. They all happen in sequence. And the first book ended off on a cliffhanger. So I'm excited to see where this goes based on how that book ended, because I didn't really expect it to end that way. So this should be very interesting. So I will update where I am with this when I get home tomorrow. But that is the Thursday update. Hopefully I get some reading done this weekend. We have some things to do, but other than that, I should have at least like a good day to sit down and just read. Or I might put my Christmas tree up. I don't know yet. We'll see how the weekend goes, but I'll talk to you all tomorrow. Hey everyone, happy Friday, for me at least. I did finish this last night, and I enjoyed it. I liked the stories. Again, I said that this follows Jem for the most part, who isn't my favorite character ever, but because we got sprinklings of the other characters, I still really liked it. And the last story in here, I think sets up the new trilogy that's not out yet. If I understand enough about what that trilogy is based on what I've read, I don't know how she never planned on. I don't know if she always planned on that trilogy and she just didn't announce it, or if she was just like, I don't feel like I'm done. Because after that final short story, it's definitely, she left it wide open for another trilogy. So I'm very excited if that's what that's going to lead into. And then I started Rule of Wolves. I haven't read too much of it. I'm only on like page 140, but I'm liking it so far. It's definitely faster paced at the beginning than King of Scars was, which is good. And I think that the romance, there is a slight romance in here. It's definitely picked up, and I'm excited to see where that goes. But the whole like action part of it has like just started straight off the bat. So that's really exciting because that obviously grabs my attention a lot quicker than the first book did. So I'm going to continue reading this tonight, and I'm hoping to get decently far tonight so I can finish this up tomorrow morning and close out this vlog finally, because it's been like over a week, and we'll talk about everything and wrap it up at that point. All right, time to wrap up this vlog. Starting with the first book I read, which was Bride by Ali Hazelwood. Picked this up right at the beginning of the month. Quick read. I have adored every book Ali Hazelwood has written. This may be up there as my favorite right now. That is Check and Mate. That is my favorite book I read by her. But this one was so good. I loved it. I know that you either love or hate this. I loved it. So I think she did a good job of like straddling a romance with having a little bit of fantasy, since that's not something that she usually writes. I don't think that the fantasy aspect overtook the romance. It was definitely more of a romance than a fantasy, but it had like the Omegaverse atmosphere to it. This follows Misery and Lo, and Misery is a vampire, Lo is a werewolf, and they have a little bit of like a marriage of convenience, but there is more to it than meets the eye for both of them, and that kind of unravels as the story goes on. And I really do hope that this goes into another book, because she did kind of set it up to be interconnected standalones. So it's not like the fantasy story was a cliffhanger, but she did kind of hint at a possible other relationship right at the end of the book. So I think that would be really fun. I think that would be a fun book if you've read it and you know who the characters are. I think maybe you agree with me, maybe you don't, but I would be very interested in seeing that love story. So 4.5 stars, 1 spice. It was not, maybe I rated it that low too for her because I had just read Not in Love, which was her spiciest book, but I don't really think that the spice overtook the story in this book at all. Then I read a nonfiction book as well during this time frame that I'm not going to talk about, but the next book that I read for my TBR was The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. This follows Emily, and she is basically Groundhog Daying her way through Valentine's Day over and over and over again. And she keeps running into this guy from her school, Josh, every time. Like, no matter what she does, their encounter is always pretty much the same at the beginning of her day. And she's dealing with a bunch of changes in her life. Like, she finds her boyfriend cheating on her. Her dad is uprooting, like, part of her family. And, like, there's stuff going on at school that kind of throws her for a loop. And she's just living this terrible day over and over again, trying to figure out what she needs to do to make it stop. And I think that the way that it happens is actually kind of funny. But it was just a really cute, wholesome YA romance novel. Lynn Painter's always an author I reach to when I need just a quick, fun, lighthearted romance, and that is what I needed when I picked this book up, just because of things that were going on at that time. So this did help get through that a little bit. All these books have reading has been getting me through this past week, that and Taylor Swift music, but really enjoyed this. It was, again, nothing like earth-shattering, but just a really fun, lighthearted romance. I gave this 3.5 stars and half spice. Then I went down a dark hole and picked up Magnolia Park's Into the Dark, which was a very emotional romance read. I was very surprised at myself for not crying at the beginning of the book. And I don't know if I was just like emotionally dead inside at that point, but I started reading about like the aftermath of and like the more details of what happened at the end of the last Magnolia Parks book, Long Way Home. And I thought that that would like break me, but I didn't. It was like page 175 or something that I finally just like lost it. So I did cry during this book. It was very emotional. I did end up giving this 5 stars. However, I do have some qualms about it. This was BJ's and Magnolia's last book. And if you've read any of the other Magnolia Parks books, you know how toxic their relationship was in those 2 books and how immature they acted about their relationship and about things. And while I think that BJ started to grow a little bit more in the last book, there was just a lot of character development that was almost unrealistic from the last book to this book. I mean, Magnolia, I'm not really a big fan of her. I'm still not really a big fan of her as a person. I don't like her personality. I don't like how she treats people. I don't like a lot about her. Their love story is very adorable for how it started, I guess I should say, but the things that they've put each other through are very off-putting. BJ had a lot of character growth that was almost unrealistic. So that was kind of hard to get through because we literally went from like 1,000 down to like boring normal, and I'm like, I don't know how much I believe that, but it was still a wonderful way to end their love story and their story in general, like everything else that was going on. But things that happen in this book make me really, really, really want the next Daisy Hates book. So I don't know when we're getting it. 5-star read, 1.5 spice. I was pretty shocked that I gave that book 5 stars too, because I never thought I'd give a Magnolia Parks book that, but it took me 3 books to get it to that level. Then I had been reading The Ghost of the Shadow Market like continuously throughout this vlog, because this is a bunch of short stories all centered around the shadow markets in different cities and different time periods that Jem Carstairs had visited, and like stories that revolve around that. And it is literally like from every era of the Shadowhunters world that we have seen so far that I know I will see. He is not my favorite character by any means. He was actually one of the reasons I did not like the Infernal Devices. But I did enjoy this book. I enjoyed getting to see like the interactions he has had over the years with all of the different Shadowhunters put into one book. And I do like that we got all the other characters as well. So it was just a fun time. It was a good time. It kind of buttoned up some of the little bit of the plot gaps in some of the other books. And it also leads into what I believe is the storyline for the new trilogy that's coming out. So I don't know if that was always planned, but it definitely seems like it based on how the last story in here ended. 4 stars, half spice. And then finally, I read my last Leigh Bardugo novel. Now I have to wait for her to release another book. This is the final book in the Grishaverse. It is the second book in the King of Scars duology, and this book mainly follows Zoya, Nikolai, and Nina. I really liked this duology. This book was a lot easier and faster to get into, and I read it a lot quicker than I did King of Scars. That was a little bit harder for me to get into because they had to like rebuild the story. But we saw a lot of characters in this book. It kind of brought everything together really nicely at the end. There was a lot more action and war and politics in this book, but there also is always an underlying love story. Leigh Bardugo's books never make the love story the primary focus, but there's always something going on, which also helps keep the story going in my mind. Zoya is also one of my favorite characters, if not my favorite character, in all of the Grishaverse books. She appears in every single series, at least a little bit. She's not very much in the Six of Crows duology, but she does appear. And I really like Nikolai too. I think he's just a fun character. He's witty, he's smart, he's like quick with the jabs back and stuff. I don't know, he's just really fun. He's kind of like Kaz if you liked the Six of Crows duology. Nikolai is very much like that. So 4.25, 0 spice. There was really like not even enough to give it half a spice on this. So it took me a lot longer than I thought to get through those books this week, but in my defense, 3 of them were over 500 pages. One was 700 pages, one was over 600 pages, and one was almost 600 pages. So they're big books. But I really do think I enjoyed all of those. It has been a rough week, and I've really been leaning, like I said, on books and on inspiring music and just to drown out the world. But I'm looking forward to reading the rest of my TBR for the month, and we'll see how the rest of the month goes. If you've read any of these books, if you're interested in any of these series, let me know. I did catch up on the Magnolia Park series in this vlog, as well as finished the Grishaverse in general, which was very exciting to do. I'm sad it's over, but those are books that I would probably go back and read too, so not that sad. And made progress on the Shadowhunters. So all in all, good on my goals for the end of the year. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.